Hi and welcome to the LSEG developer community. Today we're going to be looking at the LSEG data library for Python, and we're going to be looking at the pricing stream module and functions. Within this module and these functions, we're going to be showing you how you can use the library to manage streaming data, pricing data, and you can think of it like a tube just throwing live tick data at you, and this Python library function is going to help you to manage this kind of throughput that can be quite high and intensive and in real time. I'm not going to be going through the data model. Today we're going to be getting straight into the code. And here I am using JupyterLab, which is a new environment that I'm using that is quite close to the codebook environment that you can find inside of Workspace, the LSEG desktop application, in order to keep it quite simple. Don't worry, all the shortcuts are the same in Codebook and in JupyterLab, as well as Visual Studio Code if you're using notebooks. So here, if I click to the left of a cell, click A, it's going to create a new cell. All of these things, so if I press on double D, it's going to delete it. All these things are still there. So getting straight into the code, here in cell 1, I'm going to be importing datetime. I'm going to be using this library in order to keep track of time as we collect live data. The live data is going to be going quite quickly, so we're going to collect microsecond, if not nanosecond, timestamps, and we're going to be using the IPython library, specifically the module display, in order to display some outputs in a clear way. And with here, we're using the pandas data frame functionalities, of course, and we're going to be using it as PD, and we're going to be using the Plotly library in order to plot our data in a live fashion, and we're going to make sure that Plotly is indeed the default for pandas if we're going to be using the two in tandem. Okay, moving swiftly onwards, we're going to be using our access layer, which means that we need our workspace application running on the same machine where we're running our code. That's what I'm doing right here. And you can pip install your library onto your environment if you don't already have it right there. I've already imported it here, and now I can open my session thanks to the fact that I have the workspace application running in the background. I'm going to be running some codes whilst I speak because it takes a short while whilst I'm recording. And here I have my first data frame, the data frame I'm creating right there using the getData function inside of the LSEG data library for Python, which is quite a simple one with our universe. Here I'm looking at the Japanese yen USD currency rate, and here I've got my bid and ask prices, and I'm going to be changing the index again using this datetime native Python library in order to timestamp my data. And I've got it right here. You see I've got my timestamp, and I'm going to be renaming my index time to make sure that I know exactly what I'm talking about here as my index on the left, and I've got my instrument, my bid, and my ask, which is some simple stuff. Here though, in cell 5, we're going to be doing something a little bit more complicated. We're going to be creating our own function with a global df. Now, what does that mean? It means that we're using a data frame that is not created inside of the defined function. It's created outside of the defined function, and we're going to be referring to it. We're going to be referring to that global data frame that exists in the global environment and not just inside that defined function environment. With that df, why am I doing this? I'm doing this because I would like to actually update that data frame as I get new streaming data. So if I was to have a look here, I've got my three variables, my three arguments. I've got my first argument data, and I've got my data right there. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be concatenating df with data. I'm using the concat function inside of the pandas library to update my df function, which you can see here on the right and on the left, to update df, which, if you remember, was created up there in cell 4. I'm going to be updating df with the new data that is that argument inside of my function. We're ignoring the index in order to make sure that we can overwrite it with our time, or in this case, just with the seconds as they tick coming in. We've got our line here that we're creating a figure, which is going to be a line created inside of the px module with our line function, and we're going to be updating our layout, updating our graph, which is what we're going to do here. We've got a line graph with our title and template. We've got several templates. I'm just going to stick with a dark one, and I'm going to be using all of this, which is to say this function, inside our open pricing stream function inside the LSEG data library. So here what I'm doing is I'm telling it that on data, as soon as there's new tick of data, I would like to run this function that I've created up there. And as you can already tell, underneath, I've got my live data coming through. So here I have my Japanese yen USD value coming up, and with something I mean, this is quite simple, right? We've got a few lines of code here, and this can actually be just one line of code. So with just maybe 10 lines of code, we've got an updating tick by tick graph showing up with, which you see is interactive, and I can see my values. I can even implicitly see the spread and things as such between the bid and ask. There's quite a lot of information ticking on right there. This is streaming. This is streaming data, which means that you are contributing towards your limits. You might be hitting your limits with this kind of stream, and therefore you always have to make sure that you are closing your stream. So here with this line, I'm going to be closing my stream, and I can have a look at the data frame, because here, if you remember, we've been updating our data frame with new data as it goes by. So I can have a quick look at what that is right there. So I've got my instruments. It only updates once. I mean, I'm not going to be asking for this information every time, otherwise I'm contributing to my limits every time. And I've got my bid and ask right there throughout. All right, now what if you actually just want to record this kind of data, if you don't want to have it just displaying every time? Here, I'm going to have it just displaying it so that I can see it with my own eyes and see the ticking data. So you see I've got something right there. It goes between Bitcoin and Japanese yen and British pound sterling. And I can define my callback. Now let me just, if I do this, there you go, it's going to stop ticking in front of me. I can define my callback so that I can see my data frame and record this ticking data, because what I had before here was just I could see it live, but it's not really that useful unless you want to use it inside of an application, a Python application you create yourself. That's perfectly fine and doable. But here, what I'm going to do instead is I just want to be able to see the data frame as it's ticking inside my recorder stream, and I can use the recorder module inside of the stream module and the record function. So here with this record function, what I can do is I can define the frequency. So here I've got my tick frequency, and I'm going to set it to a 15-second duration. So after 15 seconds, it's going to stop, and I can have then my callback running every time and see my data frame. So you see it right there. You can see the call at the bottom being refreshed, and you can see the data frame ticking every single time going forward. So this is going to go on for 15 seconds. Again, I'm going to collapse the return so that we don't have this ticking in front of us. And then you can, if you want, you can stop it. However, I'd like to know when it's going to stop. It should stop after 15 seconds running. And again, don't forget to close your stream. So every stream you have open, don't forget to close it. And here what we can do is we can have a look at the history of the entire history, the tick history, because it's been tick frequency of the data that's been streaming throughout right here. We're going to see when it's going to stop. And whilst it goes on, I'd like to speak about what we've got here. So what we can do is that we can record ticks straight away. Instead of creating this streamer, we can record it right here. And when I'm doing this, by the way, I'm using a bigger universe. I've spoken about the universe in question before. So you've got British pounds, euro, Japanese yen, and Bitcoin, all to the USD. My bid and my ask, and I can record this data just like I did before with my tick. However, here, notice that unlike there, I do not have a duration. So if I was to go there, it's still ticking. It's going to stop after 15 seconds. You know what, let's stop it right there. And I can see, it's not going to stop until I stop the stream. We can see our history. So let's do that again now. Let's copy this, Control-C, boom, and see our tick history. So the tick history that we had here, that we have recorded with our stream, we can see right there, all the way down to when we ended this here. As I said, we can just record our ticks. So let's just do that right there. And here, notice that we do not have this tick data showing as a data frame. That's because we did not create this function, this callback, and we did not call it on data inside of that record function. So here inside my record function, all I'm saying is I'd like to record the tick, and I can stop it whenever I want and show it displayed right here. So here I'm using the display function, which by the way comes from the IPython library, and I'm using this right there in order to show the data that we've got this far inside my recorder. So I let it tick for maybe like 3 or 4 seconds, and I've got the data right there. I have my entire data. Notice that, I mean, it's going to be unlikely for us to have a new tick, a piece of information for each one of these currencies. So here I've got my Japanese yen, my Bitcoin, and my Bitcoin updated when my Japanese yen didn't. So you can see that every time we've got a new piece. It's rare, but it does happen. You see here we've got euro and GBP updating at the same time right there, and we've got our NA everywhere else, which you can drop using pandas functionalities. This is one of the reasons why we use pandas throughout. You see the LSEG data library for Python tends to return data in pandas data frame functions so that you can then use the functionalities of these data frames yourself going forward with your data analysis. Again, I'm going to be making very sure that I'm stopping my recorder. You can have a look. There you go. I can have a look at everything since I've been speaking. There's quite an awful lot more data right here. You see 511 ticks, quite a lot right there. We can also have a quick look at 5-second bars. So here, there you go. That was quite quickly done. What we did is that we had a look at the open, high, low, and close in 5-second intervals for all of our 511 rows. That's quite an awful lot there. So you can see I can scroll down. However, it's a bit more concise. Let's have a look at what it's like if I do 10. So you can see we got fewer rows, and it has concatenated. It's got it's squeezed the data into 10-second rows. We've got them right there. That's quite useful, I've got to admit, in order to be able to see your data in a more concise way. Okay, let's close our stream again. Make very sure you're closing your stream every time. And you can do these open, high, low, close with durations as well. So here I've got a duration of 10 seconds. Let's do 5. So I'm going to open my stream and I'm going to record the data that I'm asking for. So here there's only 3 objects in my event, 3 RICs in my environments with these 2 fields, and I'm going to be recording. You see it's already stopped for 5 seconds, and I'm going to have a look at the history in there. So you see there's only 3 pieces of information for your 2-second frequency during 5 seconds, and it stopped automatically. You see I didn't have to go in there and stop it whilst it was ticking and concatenate or shorten any outputs because it was ticking in front of me. It was done all in the background for you. Again, close your stream. Make sure to close your stream so you're not using data in the background. Now, this far we've had quite an awful lot of data being inputted into data frames and things like this. So you want to make sure you're deleting this data just in case someone else is not going to be seeing it later on. Let's close our session because we've gone through all the functionalities you can go through with the pricing stream functionalities within the LSEG data library. Now, this is great. However, this far we've had to have our workspace application running. Let's have a look at how you can use the platform session in order to stop your use of the desktop application. Now, with the desktop session, you had to have the workspace or the icon desktop application running on the same machine where you're running your code. However, if you were to log out of that, I'm just going to be doing this in the back end as well, you can use your platform session in order to authenticate yourself to the LSEG services in this way. So here I've got I'm opening my session just as I did at the top of my code with my configuration file where I have all of my configuration data, my login credentials, and I've put this JSON file with all this data in this location on my PC. So I'm telling the library where that file is, and I'm telling it the name of the session that I'm using. So here, the name of my session is LDP6 because I've got a few, and this one is the 6th one. So here I'm going to be opening my session right there. You see I've got it here, and it's telling me the name of my session, and I'm going to be able to collect data exactly in the same way that we did before. So here I'm going to be collecting my data frame, and I've put all of the code that we had before into one just to make it more concise. I have my data frame. I'm collecting my global DF just like we did before, and there you go. You've got your ticking data inside your graph showing right there in front of your eyes. Now, don't forget to close your stream. Again, I've said that enough, but let's make sure it's done. Again, you can have a look at your data frame after it's been updated, and you can do the same as what you did before with the platform session as with the desktop session. Here, where you open your stream and record. So here I've got my recorder, even though I can see still my graph ticking, because why not? And I can stop my recorder and see my tick history. So that's what I'm going to be doing right there. Now, because I did not close my stream, it's going to be continuing to tick. So let's just do this. You see what I've done. So here I'm going to do Control Shift minus in order to split my cell where my cursor was. I'm going to run the close. So I'm going to be closing my stream. You might have to, yeah, there you go. It took a short while. I was going to close my kernel manually, but you don't have to do that. It takes a short while to close the stream. So here I'm going to be running this, and I'm going to be seeing my tick history data frame. By the way, the display function is actually not necessarily inside Jupyter Lab and Codebook because it already has the display functionality in there. So if I was to just write tick history and run this cell, it will show me the data frame. And I can see my data frame here from the tick history that we recorded right there. That's pretty brilliant if you ask me, because you can run the same functions as you did before with your desktop session with the platform session. So you don't have to change your code or anything as such, apart from obviously your login, and you can close your session yet again. All right, this was a quick one going through all of the streaming prices. I find that very interesting because you can see how Python shines. You don't only have to use Python with kind of static data, but also with streaming live data. And we've seen how you can do this here with just a very quick showcase with some graphs. You can make something quite complex quite quickly here with this pricing stream. All right, I hope this was useful, and I hope to see you again. Thanks for watching.